Let's have a little chat, shall we? Let's have a little occult chat. This is your host, The Occult View. I want to talk about a few things. Beware of vultures, distractions on your path and on your spiritual journey to elevate your consciousness to the 5D earth and to a 5D way of thinking. Because there are people who are vultures who will try to keep you trapped in the 3D world of decay, sadness, hopelessness, fear, lack of knowledge, lack of wisdom. They will try to keep you trapped in this in that particular realm. So just beware that some of these people are your family, your closest associates. Just beware that they can be distractions. They may try to throw words at you to trigger you, like someone tried to do to me earlier today, but it didn't work. Didn't work because they are unhappy. It can be friends. If you're telling a person that everything is okay and they're still talking negatively about a situation that they don't know anything about or that they're not involved in, you got to kind of just back away and ease away. Let them keep, if they want to, let them stay trapped in the realm of confusion, war, chaos, havoc. I'm going to say havoc, death, disease. Let them stay trapped in that world. Sadness, no manifestation. Let them stay trapped in that world. If they want to argue all the time and pick fights and trying to battle people who are there to be an aid to them and to be supportive to them, and they want to attack and battle those people, let those people go. Let those people go. We're not going to say, like Moses said, let my people go. No, we're going to change that. Let those people go. Let them go. Let them enjoy the rewards of their works: decay, death, sadness, hopelessness, no knowledge, no wisdom, slavery, lack of freedom, no spirit. Let them stay in this world. Let them remain a slave to the masters of the 3D world. Let them remain that way. That's what I say. I just wanted to say that first. I was thinking about something, and this won't be a long video. I was thinking about something. Speaking of the fifth dimension, um, what if Earth, what if the Earth is just the current incarnation of Mars and Venus? I know what you all are saying, huh? Planets go through cycles of incarnations as well. And what if Earth is the current incarnation of Mars and Venus? I don't think y'all understand what I'm saying. Let me clarify or break down what I'm saying. For many, many years, you've heard scientists say that especially Mars is or was similar to Earth. But now they're saying the same thing about Venus. I don't know which planet went under first. I don't know if it was Venus that went under before Mars or they went under at the same time. I don't know. But what if Mars and Venus and Earth are really all the same planet, having different experiences in different times? What if that is really what we're dealing with? And what if the destruction on those planets was caused by the same things that we're doing on this planet right now to destroy it? Because when you look at Venus, Venus looks like Venus is, we all learned in school, well, at least I did, Venus is like a greenhouse effect. And the greenhouse effect is that you take some glass or a glass, you put it under some light like the sun, and the sun traps it. The light is trapped in the greenhouse. And that's how Venus is. It's a greenhouse full of heat and toxicity. How did it become that way? How did it become that way? Is the question. Now, Mars, on the other hand, is more of a cold, barren type of planet that cannot support human life. And when you really look at Venus and Mars, it really looks like some type of human made catastrophe happened to those planets, or let's just say it aided in the current conditions on both of those planets. But what, excuse me, but what if Venus and Mars, the two planets that could have possibly supported life, what if they exist in the higher dimensions now? The life that we're looking for, what if they exist in the higher dimensions because those planets they've already lived out their cycle. So whatever happened, it just happened. If there were wars on the planet or whatever the case may be, but what if they've transcended, like I said the other day, to higher states of consciousness? And what we see, or what they claim to be showing us, because I don't believe a lot of the stuff that they show us out here, but what they claim to be showing us, if that is true, what if that's just the corpse? If you believe in reincarnation, for example, or rebirth, if you believe in that, then let's say you discover through what do they call transcendental meditation or something, where your old body is. You feel what I'm saying? You discover where your old body is, and you go to the graveyard, and you see that there are bones, of course, laying in that sarcophagus or casket. So it's the same concept. We're looking at our old planet, our old body, the Earth's old body. When we look at the decay of Venus and Mars, we're looking at the graveyard. We're looking at their decaying bodies that no longer has life anymore. Because they went through their own dimensional shift and they raised their consciousness. And now the same thing is happening to the earth. So those people who did not raise their consciousness, I'm assuming on Mars and Venus, on in that cycle of the earth's incarnation, have an opportunity to do it now, and that's what's happening. Or here's another thing. Here's another thing. What if at some point the earth was operating on a higher vibration? But then it got dragged down into the lower dimensions because of human consciousness wanting that. Let me explain what I'm saying. We live in a world of carnality. We live in a world of carnality where spirituality has taken a back seat for a lot of people. People are more interested in satisfying their carnal urges. You feel what I'm saying? What if at some point the earth was really operating at a much higher frequency, but because of human choices and human consciousness, we fell? Isn't that isn't that the whole story that is foretold or told in the Bible about fallen angels and how the angels fell and all that? But take the Bible out of it. What if the real story is that it wasn't about angels falling, it was about interdimensional beings falling within their consciousness? And in the process of that, it brought you down to a lower dimension. And now we have been blinded, we've been disillusioned, we've been lied to, we've been misinformed. We've been told, do this, do that, do this, and do that. But that only keeps you trapped in the third dimensional gateways. We've been told to, wait a minute, we've been told to follow a certain doctrine of rules that have been set before us because they said that, oh, if you follow these rules, you will go to heaven or you will be rewarded by this mysterious, evil entity that's called God, the Yahweh effect, right? They tell us to follow all of these rules because these rules that they have set before us, these are the rules that are keeping us trapped in this lower third dimensional reality. And then you will have people who will come and say, well, follow me and I'll set you free. I know the answer to everything. But the answer is not in a person. The answer is inside of you. So, what if everything that we've been taught to do, as I said the other day, what if everything that we've been taught to do is actually backwards and keeping us trapped in these lower dimensions? And the people that are around us, including our parents, family, friends, they want us to have all of these responsibilities and allegiances to them because that takes the focus off of us and what we should be doing for us and for our own spiritual development. So we can have the understanding of how to elevate our own consciousness. Now, I don't believe in entrapment and all of that stuff and, that the earth is a prison. I think that it's only a prison and it's only a place of torment for the masses of people who have these negative, nefarious intentions towards other people. And if we get caught up in that, that is how it becomes a prison and a torment and a cycle of torment. But when you tap into your eternal enlightenment, which is always there, something that you never have to achieve, it's always there. But the game that they try to play with us is this, that you have to achieve it. No, it's just that some people are not willing to accept it. They're not willing to accept enlightenment. They want to accept religion. They want to accept following someone, and that's okay for them if that's what they want to do. But for the rest of us, we choose to be freedom thinkers. We came down here to free people's minds. Those people who are receptive to that. Now, if they don't want to hear it, they don't want to hear it. That's fine. But what if the earth fell down into a lower dimension? Because, doing some research and stuff like that, they were saying that during I want to say the time of so-called Atlantis, that during that whole destruction of Atlantis, it wasn't just about Atlantis being destroyed. I've heard through the grapevine that not only was Atlantis destroyed and Lemuria, but it also changed the whole vibration of the planet. Because prior to the destruction of Lemuria and Atlantis, people were more in tune with spirit and other spiritual beings and entities and stuff like that. But when that happened, which was man-made, by the way, that was man-made. The elites at that time, they didn't want people to be spiritual. It was a spiritual war going on then as well. They wanted to destroy civilization because they wanted to have more control over the masses for generations to come and for millennials and thousands of years to come. It's all secretly documented somewhere in the goddamn what do they call it? In the Vatican. So after that whole deluge or that whole destruction of those civilizations, and let's not even talk about, which they stopped showing videos about it. They've removed all of the videos about it. People were also talking about another civilization called Tartaria. But they don't want to talk about Tartaria anymore. They stopped talking about Tartaria. Tartaria the Great. And I don't know why, but that name seems to ring a bell to me in my spirit. The mud flood and things of that nature. I don't know if it's all accurate, but there's something to that. You notice they've removed all videos on YouTube about Tartaria. And the ones that are left are goofy and stupid and don't really give out any real information. But after going back to Atlantis and Lemuria, after the destruction of those continents and those civilizations, the entire vibration of the planet changed. Portals were closed. And the planet was now operating on a more third dimensional level. So that was like a fall from the sixth and fifth dimensions down into the lower third dimension. So now the planet is kind of going through a shift because the third dimension is dying out, as I told you all the other day. The third dimension is dying out. That way of thinking is dying out. And Even the people, and I'm recognizing this, you got to watch people. You got to watch people because even the people who I may listen to, and I'm talking about men, even the people that I listen to, and I don't have an issue with what they say, but if it is about a cult and having a cult mentality, then that too has no place in the fifth and sixth dimensions. That has no place in it. Because even that is still a 3D way of thinking. Now, let me be clear about what I mean when I say that. There's nothing wrong with having like minded people around you. There's nothing wrong with people coming together, trying to do positive things in a balanced way. But usually, what ends up happening is someone wants to be the leader. And see, this is where the third dimensional illusion and delusion comes in. Someone wants to be the leader, and someone wants to control the other people. So it's never really balanced. It's always some person in the dark who wants to control the masses of people. That is Antichrist, and that is the antithesis of spiritual evolution. That is the enemy of spiritual evolution. I don't want anybody following me. I don't want to have control over other people's lives. I want to help people have control over their own lives, over their own emotions as much as possible. I mean, you're not going to be able to control everything. Sometimes things just happen, you know? Sometimes you have to let certain things within you just flow and see where it takes you. Because sometimes spirit may be talking to you. And sometimes when spirit is communicating with you, when your spirit, which is who you really are, when your spirit is communicating with you, sometimes the communication may come off aggressive. It may not seem comfortable, but that is because we live in such a dense 3D world that sometimes when spirit is trying to talk to you, the message gets muddied in this 3D edifice that we're in. So it may come out or it may come to you as something scary based upon our own consciousness and what we've been told to believe. But once you peel back the layers and you understand what's really happening, you will realize, oh, this wasn't so bad after all. It was a little annoying, a little challenging, but what's really happening is I am advancing to another level consciously. It may not feel comfortable, but it's necessary for your growth. So sometimes when spirit is talking to you, it may come through in a awkward way, but don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid of that. Because if you continue to listen and you continue to feel, and I'm not talking about talking like I'm talking, it's a feeling. You feel what I'm saying? Spirit speaks to you through intuition. At least it does me. I can't speak for anyone else. I'm talking about me. However, your spirit speaks to you. There are many distractions on the road to the fifth dimension. But what if the 3D world wasn't always the 3D world? That's my whole thing now. And what if Earth, at one time, in one of its past incarnations, what if it was Venus and Mars? See, I'm of a firm belief. I don't think Atlantis was a continent. I don't think Lemuria was a continent. I think they were other planets. I think Mars was Atlantis, and I think Lemuria was Venus. And once they went under, The earth was born as we know it. And a lot of that ancient information was transferred to earth, and they made the pyramids and other other I want to call them what do I want to call them? I'm going to call them relics and monoliths. They made these other relics and monoliths to connect to different star systems within the galaxy and the universe. So people would never forget. And I think that what a lot of the ancient Egyptians left behind, they were trying to tell us not only about, you know, life after death and things of that nature, but they were also trying to tell us about elevating to the fifth dimension or the higher dimensions. I think that a lot of those hieroglyphs were telling stories about what led to the earth falling down to the third dimension and how we can rise back up again. But in order for us to rise back up, we cannot become seduced by cult leaders and people who claim that they are this or they are that. Because whether you rise back up to a higher dimension, you may go higher than the fifth dimension. Whether you rise back up or not is really dependent upon you and your own spiritual growth and your own spiritual development. It really has nothing to do with connecting with everybody else on the planet. I don't want to be connected to everybody else on the planet. To me, that sounds like antichrist. When I hear these movements and all of this stuff, to me, that sounds like a cult and it sounds like antichrist. It's the same thing that I'm watching on this series on Hulu called The Other Black Girl, where this black woman, young black woman, she is recruiting other black women to be in a cult of some sort with her and their leader, Garcelle Bouvet. Y'all know who Garcelle is, child. But that's a good example of what I'm talking about. There is no leader in your spiritual journey. There is no leader. The only leader that there should be is you. Now, again, there's nothing wrong with connecting with like minds. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having, associates or spiritual constituents. It's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, you can't even get blinded by that. We're going to have assistants and aides and people that are going to help us. There's nothing wrong with that. But the problem that I see with a lot of people is that they want to turn that into a cult where they are the leader and everyone else follows them. That is 3D. That is 3D. That keeps you trapped in the third dimension. That keeps your consciousness trapped in the third dimension because your spiritual journey is your spiritual journey. If you choose to intertwine that with someone else, there's nothing wrong with that. But it should be a benefit, not a hindrance. And I see a lot of people starting, these different groups. And some of these people, I'm talking about men, I'm not talking about women. Some of these men are cool. I watch their videos. But the more and more I listen to them, the more and more I see it is about them starting basically their own cult where people will be up under them and everyone's consciousness is connected and everyone has a connected consciousness and all of that stuff. And I'm not totally against that, but history has shown Jim Jones, David Koresh, Father Divine, that Haley Comets cult, um, that other cult weirdo that cut off his own male members' parts back in the 1990s. What was the name of that cult? Heaven's Gate. For some of you weren't born then. Heaven's Gate. He believed that there was a comet that was coming that was going to zap them all up into the comet or some bullshit. You know, usually that is where it leads to when one person wants to be the grand poobah. Well, you can be the grand poobah all you want, but in your own dimension, in your own dimensions. You feel what I'm saying? And I don't think that collective consciousness, I don't think that that really, I don't think that that works in a lot of ways because everyone is not the same, as we all know. And everyone does not have the same experiences. And everyone is not connected to other people like that. There are only certain people who are connected in certain ways. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Everyone is not like that. Everyone is not the same, but you have people who are trying to come in and rob and take from the people who actually have that connection. And that's all I'm going to say on that. Everyone is not like that. So when I hear people talk about collective consciousness, to me, that's just not, it's not all what it appears to be. Because ultimately, we're all on an individual journey. And people can say, well, we're connected to each other and all that. To a certain degree, we are. But at the end of the day, we all have our own specific journey that we're on. And how we interpret that is how we interpret that on an individual basis. And when I see a lot of these men in particular who are trying to say that they're this and they're that, and they know this and they know that, okay, that's all well, fine, and good. You can know all of those things, but is that enough? But is that a distraction from your spiritual path? Because what ends up happening is it becomes more about how much money they get, how many followers they get, how many people are following them, how many people are listening to them. It becomes more about that and less about the spiritual journey and the spiritual information. And you don't want to get caught up in that. Nothing wrong with, the whole collective consciousness thing, but you just don't want to get caught up in a cult mentality because that keeps you in the lower dimensions. That keeps you stuck in the 3D world. And it's a hindrance. If you're trying to elevate your consciousness, that is a hindrance. Because your spiritual journey is your spiritual journey. And that's just the way that it is, you know. But I just had a thought. I thought I would come through and just drop this quick video. What if Earth is just the current incarnation of Venus and Mars? After all, they say that Venus was once like Earth and Mars was too. So, what are they really trying to tell us when they tell us these things? Because they tell us stuff sometimes without really telling us. What do they know? What type of information do they have? You feel what I'm saying? Just food for thought. You don't have to listen to it. You don't have to believe it. This is just something I was thinking about. You don't have to believe it. May not be true. That's all well, fine, and good. But at least I think outside the box. At least I'm thinking. At least I'm questioning. Because when I look at the world now, I see the same mistakes that were being made in prior civilizations. I see the same mistakes all over again. Anyway, this is your host, The Occult View, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.